welcome to our podcast where Prue and I talk about different topics. We usually have a lot of disagreements towards certain things, so we figured that this would be something entertaining for you guys. Our first podcast is about the infamous killers Bernardo and Karla Homolka. I can't pronounce that. Take it away.
So, we're just going to have a little bit of a trigger warning. So, if you're triggered by those words, then this episode isn't for you. Look for other ones, because this one's not for you.
It's our first one, so
I meant like
just
later on.
Wait
on for other ones. There will be more true crime ones, but this one, it's hard. It hits home. These are minors. They're kids, so it's not an easy one.
Viewer beware.
Yes. So Bernardo and Karla Homolka are Canada's most infamous serial killers and serial rapists. By the way, we are looking at a computer screen because we need notes here. There's a lot of dates. There's a lot of timelines that we have to get right.
And we need to fact check, so.
Definitely. So, Bernardo was born August 27th, 1964 in Scarborough, Ontario, which is only 3.5 hours away from us. So, yeah. Paul's parents didn't have a very stable relationship. They fought pretty much his entire life. They didn't get along, like, at all. Yeah. When Paul was born, his parents weren't married. And actually, after his mother gave birth to his siblings, Paul has 2 older siblings, she started seeing her former boyfriend again. And that's when she became pregnant. So it's actually unknown whether or not, Paul's known father, Kenneth Bernardo, is actually his dad. He did sign his birth certificate, but it's actually unknown. Paul's father surprisingly didn't really care. Didn't care about the affair. Didn't care that she was sleeping around with her ex-boyfriend.
Are his parents still alive?
Yeah, I believe so.
Have they commented about any of this, like all this stuff?
I don't know. So when Paul's mother actually revealed all this information to him when he was 16, Paul completely lost all respect for her. He called her a slob, a whore. He absolutely hates his mother. Like, despises her because she was sleeping around. But Paul's father isn't innocent either. Paul's father is actually, it's reportedly that he sexually abused Paul's sister, his daughter, pretty much her entire life. And actually in 1975, Paul's father was arrested for child molestation and was actually charged with it. After all this, Paul's mother did stay with him, but she pretty much just lived in the basement of the house and didn't really speak about it after that. Do you want Karla's childhood or?
All right. Karla Homolka was born May 4th, 1970, 6 years apart from Paul, in Port Credit, Ontario, which is close. As a child, Karla often witnessed her father getting drunk and fighting with her mom. So there's a little bit of a relation there.
Both their parents pretty much hated each other. Both of their parents, Paul's and Karla's.
And during her younger years, she was asthmatic and had to be hospitalized frequently due to having asthma. She loved drawing and often expressed her love for animals. And she got a part-time job when she was a teenager at a pet store. Like, PetSmart.
Yeah.
She was a very bright student, very smart, and all her teachers loved her. When she was 12, she realized that she fantasized about weird situations related to death, and one time attempted to cut herself with a knife. And then later on, she met Paul at a convention in Toronto when she was 17. So 5 years after she started with these weird obsessions.
And you said there's a 6-year age difference between them?
Yeah.
So he was in his early 20s when he met a 17-year-old girl.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Weird.
He was 23 and she was 17.
Gross.
And then the day they met was the first time they had sex. So they literally met the same day that they had intercourse.
Disgusting.
And they also both realized that they shared the desire of sadomasochism.
Fucked up shit. They had the same thoughts about it. So, the same year that they met, was when Paul's crime started. And, if you listen to Karla's birthday, Paul's first rape was on Karla's birthday. On her 17th birthday. So, on May 4th, 1987, Paul committed his first rape in Scarborough against a 21-year-old woman in front of her parents' house after he followed her home from a bus station.
And that's crazy. Like, where were the parents? Don't you ever, like, look out the window for your child?
Though, but, like...
Yeah, but...
She was 21. So, like...
21.
Probably, she was probably, like, coming home from work or something, and then was followed home. Their parents probably had no idea that, like, you know... She was a grown woman. She could take the bus home by herself. She could go home whenever she wanted, pretty much.
Yeah, it also depends on the time that it happened to. But that's just crazy how it happened so close to her own home. So
yeah, front yard. 10 days later, he committed another rape, attacking a 19-year-old girl in the back of her parents' house.
All right, he decided to switch it up.
He's got a thing with parents' houses, I guess.
And yards.
Yeah. 2 months later, on July 27th, he actually attempted his third rape, but was unsuccessful because the girl fought back. Thank fucking God that she did.
Good for you. Whoever you are, shout out to you.
I don't think she's watching this. 5 months later, in December, Paul committed his third rape against a 15-year-old girl. The next day, the Toronto police issued a warning to women in the Scarborough area traveling alone at night, especially those taking buses. So, I mean, it took him 3 rapes to finally be like, okay, maybe we have a problem on our hands. But, like, also, like, Toronto's massive. Like, but, like, I don't know.
And Scarborough's so close to Toronto, too, so it would be, like...
Yeah, but, like, still, it happening
hard
just
to, like,
in
really
Scarborough.
connect that, like, it wasn't...
Yeah. 2 weeks later, he attacked again, raping a 17-year-old girl. And it was at this point, during his 4th rape, that they started to name him the Scarborough Rapist. In May, Paul was nearly caught by a uniformed Metro Toronto investigator who was, like, sitting out at the bus shelter because they obviously knew that he was attacking girls that got off the bus. So they had people, like police officers and investigators and stuff like that, like, watching certain bus stops and stations and stuff like that. And the guy actually saw him, like, hiding under a tree. And then chased him on foot, but Paul got away.
Imagine what's going through his mind, too. Like, just hiding under a tree.
Yeah.
Waiting for this, you know. That's crazy.
But obviously, it didn't stop him. Because 5 days later, Paul committed his 6th rape. After the 11th rape to a 19-year-old girl, she was the only one that had enough recollection of the attacker to actually get police to make a drawn photograph of him to put out to, like, the media and in the newspapers and everything so that people could actually see who the serial rapist looked like and to catch him.
It makes it harder too that they were, like, the ages were kind of diverse, like 15 to 19, 17, 21.
Yeah. So the police later received 2 phone calls that the person they were looking for was Paul. The first one was a bank employee, and then the other one was actually a wife of one of Paul's closest friends. So she kind of called in. I did see that when I was researching that the police said that, like, her call was very odd. Like, she just called in and was like, yeah, the guy you're looking for is Paul. Like, it's Paul Bernardo. Like, he's a weirdo. Like, you gotta get him. And, like, there was an award out for people that would, like, if they called in and reported that they knew who it was and then it actually was him, like, they were gonna get, like, an award of, like, I think it was only, like, $2,500 or something. But, like, the police pretty much were like, she was really weird. I think she kind of just wants, like, the award. But they did actually end up calling him in for questioning, and he completely volunteered himself to give samples of forensic, like, evidence. Like, he was just like, yeah, go ahead. Like,
it's a good way of trying to, like, cover your own tracks so that you seem very confident rather than being like more sketchy about it, so that then you look suspicious, but it's still super risky doing that.
Yeah. And during the interview, when the detectives asked why Paul thought he was being investigated for the rapes, he was like, "Oh yeah, like I kind of look like that drawing," and was just like, "Okay." But
He's very composed.
Yeah.
Very composed when he was being interviewed.
Yeah.
Which was a smart decision at the time, I guess, for him.
Like on his end, I think. Yeah. But unfortunately, the detectives decided that a man like Paul, that was so well educated and like well adjusted and so just like such a good guy, that there was just no possible way that he could have committed such vicious crimes like this. So they released him the next day.
That's crazy.
Which makes me very angry, because they literally had him in the palm of their fucking hands, and they said, "No, you're too good. You couldn't do this. There's no way. There's no way you did this."
And then it's also crazy too, because at this time, Paul is dating Karla, and after the interview, right after it, he drove to St. Catharines and tried to assure Karla that he was not the Scarborough rapist. He permanently moved to St. Catharines on February 1st, 1990. And obviously the rapes in Scarborough stopped because he wasn't living there anymore. But he did commit his 12th rape 2 months later in St. Catharines to a 14-year-old girl.
So, yeah, like, obviously once he moved away from Scarborough, everyone was like, "Oh my God, finally, like, they stopped. Like, the rapes are over, like this guy's gone." But then they started up again, like,
and that's what makes it more suspicious
that, like,
too, is like if people realize that he moved, like especially close family members who were suspicious of him when he was getting interrogated and stuff, him moving and then them just like changing from Scarborough to St. Catharines just makes it look so much worse on him.
Yeah. So yeah, at this time, like, obviously, like, Paul and Karla, they're going out, like, they're a couple, they're official, like, whatever.
Karla's still working at the pet shop.
Yes, which is where she met a 15-year-old girl, and kind of invited her out, for, like, a girls' night out, you know. They went out, did shopping, went out for dinner and stuff like that, and then Karla obviously was like, "Hey, like, come back to my house, like, we'll have a few drinks, like, whatever." And she did, and that's when Karla laced her with Halcyon, I believe it's called. It's like a sedative drug type thing. Which, by the way, she got these drugs from working at the pet store. Like, these weren't human, like, drugs. They were pet drugs.
And her being 15, being like that small,
and drinking alcohol for the first time, mixing it, and like all this stuff, like. So obviously the 15-year-old girl lost consciousness. And when she did, Karla called her boyfriend, Paul Bernardo, to tell him that his surprise wedding gift was ready. So obviously they got engaged. It's not very clear when they got engaged, how he proposed. Like, I haven't seen anything about that online anywhere. So obviously, she like called Paul and whatever. I don't know if he wasn't home. I don't know where he was, but when she was unconscious, they undressed the girl, and Paul actually videotaped Karla as she raped the girl before Paul vaginally and anally penetrated her. The next morning, when the 15-year-old girl woke up, she was obviously really nauseous, throwing up, stuff like that, and believed that it was due to drinking the night before, because she had never drank before. She didn't know what it was like to be drunk. She didn't know how a hangover felt. So she just assumed that, wow, like, this shit sucks, like, I'm vomiting and whatever. But I'm sure maybe it had a little bit to do with the alcohol that she drank, but it was more because of the drugs. And that girl had absolutely no idea that she was violated.
She also could have like so much pain.
Yeah.
But like, she doesn't realize that the internal pain in her like pelvic area was because of that. She might have just been super naive, thinking that it was all just alcohol, and she was just happy that she got to drink and get drunk. Possibly, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure she probably was. Like they've said, like, like Karla's teachers and everyone. Like everyone loved Karla and Paul. Like they were both great people. They seemed like they were great people. They weren't great people, but like seemed like they were great. They had friends. They had lives. Like this girl never even thought about the fact that when she became unconscious at Karla's house that she was going to be raped. Like she had no idea, and she didn't even know when she woke up the next day. And obviously she didn't know right away because they did invite her back to actually spend the night at her house. And she was coming back to spend the night, and obviously Karla drugged her once again. And this time when Karla drugged her, the girl actually stopped breathing, which is, as soon as she stopped breathing, that's when Paul decided it was a perfect time to rape her again. Karla called 911 as soon as she stopped breathing while Paul was raping her. But then called back a few minutes later because I guess she was fine. She started breathing again and like she was okay. She wasn't unconscious anymore. Like she woke back up. So Karla called back like emergency services and said like, never mind, like there's no problem. And emergency services never even showed up. Like didn't even show up to make sure that like this girl was okay. Like you were told that this girl stopped breathing and you didn't even show up to be like, we're just gonna come and just make sure that everything's good. They were like, oh, okay, everything's fine, all right, we got better shit to do. Like didn't even come.
Yeah, but also even with that though, is like Karla could have just came to the door and said like, oh, everything's fine, and then they would have been like, are you sure?
Yeah, they could have, but I'm sure emergency services would have been like, we need to check out the person, you know, like.
And then like I don't think that they would be able to though if she's just said like, we don't want you in this house.
I don't know. I just think it's a little weird. You get a 911 call and then you get a call a few minutes later being like, never mind, don't come. Mm-hmm. Like that's sketchy as hell to me.
Yeah, it should have gotten looked into a little bit more, but
yeah. But so it is said that when like Paul and Karla first started dating and like after they got engaged a little bit, Paul spent lots of time at Karla's house. Her family absolutely loved him. They adored him. They took like family home videos with him. Like they spent all their time with Paul. Like they absolutely loved him. And I guess, which is just so weird to me, Paul spent a lot of his time like flirting with Karla's younger sister Tammy. Like I guess they often like flirted and like just like were weird. Like it was just a whole weird situation. And he actually took her across the border one time to get beer for a party.
And her younger sister was 15
yeah.
when he was 26.
Yeah, so, fucked up, weird, gross.
There's an 11-year difference there.
Very illegal is what it is. But he took her across the border, I guess, to get beer for a party. And then while they were there, they got drunk. And I guess they made out. He told Karla, and Karla was just like, okay. But, like, my question is, why did you go across the border to get her beer for a party? Or you beer for a party? Like, why are you going across the border to get the beer? Like, that just doesn't make any sense.
Seems super excessive, and he could have gotten it.
Like, Canada sells beer. Why did you not stay here and go to a liquor store? This is our puppy, by the way. This is Dexter. He's sitting on my lap.
A side note.
He's sitting on my lap because he's a suck. So after that, on December 23rd, 1990, so right before Christmas, Karla and Paul gave 15-year-old Tammy, Karla's sister, sleeping pills in a rum and eggnog. After Tammy was unconscious, Paul and Karla undressed her, and Karla applied holothane soaked cloth to her sister's nose and mouth. Karla wanted to give Tammy's virginity to Paul as a Christmas gift because Karla wasn't a virgin when they met, so he wanted a virgin. As Karla and Tammy's parents slept upstairs, Paul and Karla filmed themselves as they raped her in their basement. Soon after the rape, Tammy began to vomit. She started to vomit and choke on her own vomit, and they tried to revive her, and then once it wasn't working, whatever they were trying to do, they decided to call 911, but not after they had the evidence first. They had to redress her and hide all the drugs and everything like that, and then call 911 to make sure that 911 had no idea that they drugged her and she wasn't just vomiting because of alcohol.
Or had suspicion towards them being involved in
or even like rape. Like why is your sister naked? You know? So obviously 911 came, whatever. A few hours later Tammy was pronounced dead. Despite Paul and Karla's behavior that night of vacuuming and washing laundry like in the middle of the night, really late, and big thing, the chemical burn on Tammy's face from the cloth that her sister put on her face.
Oh, wow.
The Niagara Regional Coroner and the Homolka family accepted Paul and Karla's version of the events that occurred that night. And the official cause of Tammy's death was accidental choking on her vomit after consumption of alcohol.
I'm surprised the parents weren't held liable. Because she, like, in their eyes, she was drinking underage.
Yeah, but, like, the parents were
or even found Paul and Karla deemable because
I remember
they were under her, or she was under their supervision.
Yeah, and, like, after that, I know at the funeral or whatever, if you watch the new documentary show about them, it's mentioned. But
we're not going to plug it.
It's called The Ken and Barbie Killers, The Lost Tapes. Watch it. It's actually really good. Oh my god.
Her dog just fell off the chair.
But Paul was actually, I guess, like, afraid at the funeral because he was like, I'm the one that gave her the alcohol. Like, and even the police were like, it's okay. Like, you're not going to be charged for this. Like, it was completely accidental and all this stuff. So, yeah, yet it wasn't accidental at all. So after that, after Tammy had passed away, Paul and Karla actually, like, filmed themselves often, where Karla was wearing Tammy's clothes and pretending to be her.
That's so messed up.
There's not really, like, much into it. I don't know why they were doing it. I don't know if they were, like, doing stuff while they were doing it, but, like, yeah, they filmed themselves while she wore her dead sister's clothes. Like,
they probably found it amusing.
Obviously, like, they meant to do it, so obviously they were like, haha, this is funny. Like, but, like, it's not funny.
Kind of like a we got away with it.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
And obviously, shortly after Tammy's death, Karla and Paul actually moved out of her parents' house and went and lived, rented out this, like, bungalow house, which they said was to help let her parents cope with the death of their daughter. So yeah, they moved out and they were like, well, you cope with the death. We don't need to cope with the death. You cope with the death. So.
And then, early in the morning on June 15th, 1991, so, like, 6 months after.
Yeah, that was like right before Christmas.
Yeah, December 23rd. Paul took a detour through Burlington to steal license plates.
Which also isn't far. Like, all these places are right near Toronto, like within like an hour and a half. Like, they're all very close together.
Ontario. To steal license plates, which led him to find Leslie Mahaffey. The 14-year-old girl had missed her curfew after attending a funeral, which doesn't really make much sense because funerals don't really go that long or go that late.
Yeah, like, why were you at a funeral for so long? But, like, whatever. Maybe she was, like, with people afterwards or something. Like, maybe she wasn't leaving the funeral right then. Maybe she was, like, with people and, like, whatever.
And she was locked out of her house. I assume the family would have been at the funeral with her, unless it wasn't...
I don't know. Her family wasn't at the funeral with her. Her family was sleeping inside the house.
Okay, and she got locked out due to that and had been unable to find anyone to let her stay overnight.
I know she called one of her friends and was like, I'm locked out, can I sleep over? And her friend's... Sorry, my dog wants up. And her friends were like, no, like, you can't sleep over or whatever, like. So she was like, well, someone's got to open the door eventually. So she kind of just, like, stayed at the house and, like, on, like, the front porch and was kind of just, like, banging on the door. And, like, her parents just didn't end up answering, which sucks because, like, I'm sure at the time they were like, we're teaching her a lesson. And I feel like the next few days or a week later or even now, they're probably like, I wish we just opened that fucking door.
Especially because it was a funeral, too. Like, I understand if she's going out to party or hang out with friends or, like, do mischievous shit, but she wasn't doing anything that we know of, at least, that was wrong.
But, I mean, in a certain case, like, she's 14 years old. Like, I feel like you need to be home when your parents say that you're home. You're a kid. Like, you're 14 years old. Like, but, yeah.
And Paul approached her because he noticed her, and
he noticed her, like, standing on the porch.
He went up to her, telling her that he was looking to break into a car.
Break into someone's house. Break into a neighbor's house. He, like, just walked right up to her on the front porch and was like, hey, I'm trying to break into your neighbor's house. And she was like, cool, you got any cigarettes? Like, completely unfazed. And, like...
completely disregards what he said.
And, like, here's the thing.
And just
I get it, like, whatever, but, like, at 14 years old, if a man walked up to me on my front porch and was like, yo, I'm trying to break into your neighbor's house, I wouldn't have been like, you got any smokes? Like... that wasn't, like, a red flag to you, girl. Like, you weren't like, I'm sorry, what? Like, but whatever.
And then he blindfolded her, forced her into his car, and drove to his house, where he informed Karla, his fiance at this time, that they had a playmate.
Once again, Karla and Karla.
He keeps saying Paula.
Paul and Karla videotaped themselves torturing and sexually abusing Leslie, all while listening to Bob Marley and David Bowie. How fucking dare you listen to David Bowie and do that to that poor innocent girl? The entire time while Paul actually was making, like, remarks to her during while all this was going on and in the videos, and was saying, like, you're doing so good, like, you better keep up the good work, like, all this stuff, while she just pretty much, like, cried out in pain and begged Paul to stop and, like, stop what he was doing.
And then that led to them eventually killing her,
which is, unless you were in the courtroom, it is unknown how they killed her. Paul says that Karla smashed her head with a rubber mallet, and that she's the one that killed her because the blindfold was slipping off of her face while they were raping her. So it was said that, like, Karla was afraid that she was going to see Paul's face and be able to, like, tell police, so that's why she killed her. But Karla says that Paul strangled her. That's it. That's her story, that Paul strangled her. Paul has an entire story of, like, what Karla did and, like, why she did it and how she did it, and all Karla said was, Paul strangled her. So, I'm not saying, like, I want to believe one of them, because obviously all they fucking did was lie and, like, be terrible people, but, like, sorry, that's my dog. But, like, his story makes more sense than hers. But, like, they could both be lying. Like, he could have strangled her. They could have killed her together. Like, but they just both have different stories, and they did, obviously, during their entire trial.
And after she passed away, they put her in the basement.
Yeah, they, like, hid her body in the basement and was kind of like, okay, now what the fuck do we do with her?
And this has become, like, this is the second time it's happened. And they were trying to decide the best way to get rid of the body. And they thought of dismemberment.
Yeah, they dismembered the body and decided that not only would they dismember her body, they would put the body in blocks of cement. So the next day, Paul went out and bought a dozen bags of cement at a hardware store, which he kept the receipt for. So that was used in court.
Wow.
Paul used his grandfather's circular saw to cut up the body. And they obviously made multiple trips to Lake Gibson, where they dumped the cement blocks and dumped her body in the lake. One of the blocks was said to weigh over 200 pounds, and they had no more patience, and they couldn't wait for this block to sink. So they left it like maybe 2 feet off of shore. So it was like kind of in the water, but like very shallow.
And that's the thing too. Did they like bring one body part?
Yeah, they made like multiple trips for these.
And like you have to think too. Like imagine encasing like an arm in a block of cement and doing it like that way. It would be two legs, a head, and then the whole torso. So just that would be 5 trips. And then like they're already like kind of probably freaking out about it, trying to just get it done and over with so that they can move on to the next one. And it's just consuming so much time.
Yeah. So, I'm not exactly sure how many days later or so it was, from like if they dumped the bodies that day or like whenever. It could have been a few weeks later, but there was a father and son that were actually out. They decided it was a really nice day. They decided like, hey, let's bring our canoe and like let's go fishing for the day and like whatever. And as they walked up onto like the little beach type thing that's like there at Lake Gibson, the dad was like, what is that in the water? And saw like a cement block in the water. So he gets in his canoe and like goes over to it or whatever, and he's like poking it with his like paddle, and he's like, what is that? And then he sees like little drops of blood on it, and he's like, okay, like, but like what is it? Like maybe a fish like died on it or like whatever. And inside of it he saw a foot, a human foot, obviously. So he called.
Get inside of it?
I don't know if he could see it from like one of the sides or something. They didn't do a very good job. They left blood on the outside of the cement. Like they didn't do a very good job
blood, like you know,
of hiding it. But he obviously called the cops, of course, and while the police and detectives were in the water searching the lake for more cement blocks and trying to get all these cement blocks out of the lake, which was on June 29th when they found it, Paul and Karla were off in Niagara Falls getting married and having their wedding. And apparently it was a beautiful wedding. Everyone that was at that wedding said that it was like being at a royal wedding. That it seemed like they were so rich that it was insane.
That's
like,
crazy. Did they have like any job? Like aside the pet store, like what did Paul do?
He was an attorney. He was in school to be an attorney.
Oh, wow. That kind of
is it an attorney or an accountant? I think it was an accountant. Attorney is like lawyer. I think it was accountant that he was in school to be for.
Okay. And that's still good money, I guess. So yeah. They could afford that. And then on April 16th, 1992.
So almost a year later.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Paul and Karla were driving through St. Catharines to look for more victims.
So this time they were literally like, we're going to look for girls.
They were fishing.
We are going to look for people to attack. It was no more like, let's just go commit a little crime. It was
kind of like have a run-in.
Yeah.
And see someone and then think like, oh, you know, this is the perfect type of scenario.
It was like, we're fishing
for a girl. And as they passed a secondary school, Holy Cross, they spotted Kristen French, a 15-year-old walking home. So you can see that like the ages kind of range in the same. Like the first one was 21, but
his very first rape was 21. Yeah.
And then from there it was like 14 to 19, so in that 5-year range. But like more so near the end, it became like a younger, like 14, 15.
Yeah,
16
like it's very obvious they like
the younger girls.
Minors.
Yeah. And the couple pulled into the parking lot, and Karla got out of the car with a map in her hand, pretending to need assistance. While Kristen looked at the map, Paul attacked her from behind, forcing her into the front seat of the car, while Karla sat in the back, controlling her by pulling her hair. The teenage girl took the same route home every single day, which was only like a 15-minute walk. And when she didn't arrive, her parents notified the police. So these parents were like on it. And,
yeah, like within a few minutes, they were like, "Our daughter should be home. We're calling the cops."
Yeah. And then, 24 hours in, Niagara police assembled a team to search the area. So they were very adamant about finding this girl. And they had found several witnesses that witnessed the abduction. So,
Yeah,
out
like
in the
it
open
was
at a
in
public
broad
school,
daylight. It was in
so-
broad daylight right as school was ending. Like, this girl was walking home from school. So there was people around. There was neighbors. There was parents. There was kids. There was teachers. Like,
They must have been getting desperate.
like there was people around that, like, saw this girl be abducted. But, like, my whole thing, too. You witnessed a girl being abducted and none of you called the cops?
Did anyone, like, say the car type or anything?
I'm not 100% sure. They didn't really say if, like, they described the people or anything like that, but it just says, like, there was witnesses.
Okay.
Like, people witnessed this.
And it's crazy, too, because at the crime scene, one of Kristen's shoes was also found in the parking lot that she was abducted in.
And that's how, because police were kind of iffy at first. They were like, we're in St. Catharines. Like, this kind of stuff doesn't happen here. Like, this girl might have just, like, ran away or went to a friend's house or something like that, like, they didn't assume right away that a girl was kidnapped. So when they found a shoe in a parking lot, that kind of, like, showed them, like, this girl didn't run away. Like, this girl, there's something going on. Like, this girl was kidnapped. Like, you need to go look for this girl.
And then over the next 3 days of Easter weekend, Paul and Karla videotaped themselves as they tortured, raped, and sodomized Kristen French. So kind of the same scenario with the one minor as well.
They do it to all of them. They rape and torture and videotape every single girl that they have brought back to their house.
I think the sister was the only one that they actually wore the clothes of, though, eh?
Yeah, that they dressed up with, like, afterwards. Yeah, just her sister.
It's crazy. The following day, they murdered Kristen before going to Karla's family's house for Easter dinner. Imagine doing that, too. Like, killing someone and then just completely switching and going to a family dinner like everything's okay.
That's just how they were. That's how psychopaths are, I guess.
Yeah, it's insane. Composure is completely real with them. Kristen's nude body was found in a ditch on April 30th, 1992 in Burlington. Her hair had been washed and cut off completely, or?
It didn't really say if it was, like, completely cut off. I think it was just, like, kind of, like...
Shorter.
Yeah, like, cut, and, yeah, it was washed. Like, so you guys raped her, tortured her, killed her.
They could have
hair?
done the washing just as, like, a full body wash, just to get rid of, like DNA and
well, yes,
fingerprints
you could also do that, but, like, which is, like, okay, like, I guess on their end, like, smart, you got rid of your fingerprints and everything, but, like, you raped her, like, your DNA is literally inside of her.
It depends if they, like, for example, wore a condom, or he wore a condom,
I guess it doesn't really
it
go into detail like that.
Yeah.
They are minors, so I'm honestly, like, if these girls weren't murdered, their names would have never even been out to the public.
And it's crazy, too, because there's also 7 other girls that they have been suspected of raping.
Both of them together.
But it hasn't been proven, and they haven't been charged for it.
I do know during the trial, Karla had said that she knows of 33 more girls that Paul raped while he was the Scarborough rapist. And there's actually people that...
And it's also crazy, too, sorry to interrupt you, but even with that one girl, she doesn't
girl?
even remember. The 115-year-old
Yeah.
that also worked at the pet store, she doesn't remember. So like if she sang 33 other girls, these girls could have just went over, drank with them.
But it wasn't with them. It was with him when he would stalk them home.
Yeah. And
not when he would
I
drug
guess.
them and stuff like that. Just when he would stalk them home.
Yeah, but even like just like, you know, knocking someone unconscious and then they wake up, maybe they thought they just got hit somehow or something. I don't know. But
yeah, but there was actually, so for a few of those 33 other rapes, there's actually other men that are in prison currently, like serving time for those rapes, and Paul has actually admitted to a few of them and said, like, you wrongfully convicted people. But, like,
he could just be
there's
saying
nothing
that
that
for
they can do.
notoriety.
He could
too,
be,
though,
but, like,
yeah.
there's also nothing that they can do now, so it's
Yeah.
kind of like, you're saying it for absolutely no reason. So, like, he could just be saying it to say it, or
That could
maybe
screw
he
his
really
parole over too, though, if he wanted to get out, right?
I don't think so.
If he was
Maybe, but I don't know.
like saying if you say stuff like that like proudly, then
Yeah.
you're obviously not like feeling any remorse for the actions you've done.
But that was also, like, he has said that, like, I don't think he feels any remorse, but that was also, like, when he was first, like, in prison. Like, not, he didn't just say this.
Does he
like,
fake
last
any
year.
like in your eyes? Does he fake any remorse for anything he's done at this point?
I don't think he has any remorse at all. I don't.
No, I'm saying like fake it. Do you think that he is now like kind of trying to get out?
I think he wants to get out so he can continue to do what he wants to do.
All right, we'll continue. We'll continue, and
It was
we'll get
after,
to that.
so after, like, Kristen's body was found and everything like that, Karla had to go to the hospital because Paul beat the living shit out of her. Her face was so fucked up that it was brutal. Like, the pictures are just, her eyes, both eyes are like they say you get a black eye, but like her eyes were genuinely black, like all the way around.
We'll put a picture right here.
It was absolutely insane. So she pressed charges on Paul, and when she pressed the charges, she kind of said, like, there's more stuff, you know, but didn't really go into detail about it. So on February 17th, 1993,
Nearly a year after the girl at the secondary school that got
Kristen,
abducted.
Paul and Karla were arrested in their home. 2 days later, police executed a search warrant and searched the home of Karla and Paul, but they didn't find the videotapes. The police at the time had absolutely no idea.
Videotapes.
What?
Because they kept all the videotapes.
Yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
They didn't film it and delete it. They kept them so that they could watch them and stuff.
Like they didn't get rid of them or anything.
So the police had absolutely no idea of videotapes. So they kind of went in, like, looking, obviously, to, like, prove that, like, these people killed these girls and raped them and everything like that. But they had no idea that videotapes even existed. So during the trial, Paul claimed that the deaths on his part were completely accidental. That he did not mean to kill these girls, and that his wife Karla was the mastermind behind it, and that she was the true killer, that she killed every single one of those girls. Obviously, they didn't believe him. The prosecutors gave Karla a plea deal, which was finalized in May of 1993, in which she was told that she would plead guilty to manslaughter and be gained a 12-year sentence.
That's crazy that it was only 3 months.
What do you mean?
That was fast. Like from February 17th, where they got arrested, to May, where she got her plea deal.
Yeah.
It was decided very fast that she was going to take a plea deal.
So after the plea deal, was, like, being finalized and, like, was signed and all that kind of stuff, Paul told his lawyer about these videotapes and said, you're going to go into my home and you're going to find these videotapes and you're going to keep them. And you're not going to show them and you're going to hide them.
And they were hidden inside of a ceiling fixture.
Like, yeah, like a light. in their upstairs
A
bathroom.
light ceiling fixture, my bad.
So that's what he did. Paul Bernardo's lawyer found those tapes and hid them.
In secrecy.
And kept evidence from the police and the judge and the court. And
For
everything
16 months.
Yeah, so for 16 months he was just like, I'm not gonna do that. So Karla's trial began in June, and in July she pled guilty to manslaughter. And then in September of 1994, Paul's lawyer quit. He quit, and
So 7 months after this started, he quit.
Yeah. It's different years. 93 and 94.
Okay.
It went on for a few
19
years.
months. He quit.
He quit, and he handed over the videotapes. And he said, you know what? I'm quitting. Fuck Paul Bernardo. And here's all the videotapes of the crimes that they did. So, Karla then agreed because her trial was over. Hers was done first. So, she had her 12-year sentence that she was facing. And she agreed to testify against Paul in court. So she did. She testified against him in the trial. And in September of 1995, so a year after his trial began, Paul was found guilty of all 9 charges against him, including 2 counts of first-degree murder for killing Leslie and Kristen. Paul is sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years. And the prosecutors and everything said that those videotapes were a very crucial part of evidence, and that if they had saw those videotapes previously, they would have never signed what they call the deal with the devil, and they would have never given Karla a plea deal, because everything that she told them to make them give her a plea deal was a complete lie. Like, she said pretty much, like, Paul forced me to do it. I didn't want to do it. Like, and she told them what they believed was the truth. Like, in this situation, they truly believed the girl over the guy. And she was lying the entire time. They did exactly what she wanted them to. And they gave her that plea deal, but it was already signed and finalized after they saw those tapes. So when they saw her actively participating in the rapes and murders, there was nothing that they could do about it, because her trial was already done and she was already on her way to serve her 12-year sentence.
And that's insane that she got 12 years compared to the 25 to possible parole.
Yeah. But so obviously Paul's lawyer has since been charged for withholding evidence. I believe he lost his license as a lawyer, as he should. So yeah, he was charged, he was handled, and everything like that. After that, so Karla served her 12-year sentence, and Karla was released from prison on July 4th, 2005. She's currently living somewhere in Quebec with her new husband.
She served the full 12 years, so she didn't get on a good behavior or anything. She had to serve that full amount.
Yeah, and she is married again. She was married as of 2007, I believe it was. And she has 3 children with that man. And she has since changed her name to Leanne Teal, which Teal is Paul Bernardo's real last name.
Paul Teal.
Paul Jason Teal is his real name. And she changed her last name to that, which to me is a little odd, considering you testified against him in court, you're divorced from him.
You have a new husband and didn't take his last name.
Instead, you took your ex-husband's real last name.
Who is serving a 25 to possible parole.
Yeah, even though that's not how you say it. 25 to possible parole. So Paul was serving a 25-year sentence, which is a life sentence in Canada. Fucking stupid. But I mean, I also don't really know how like American law works, but so his sentence was, he was always obviously charged with like 9 different charges. So it was like kidnapping, rape, all that kind of stuff, and obviously 2 counts of first-degree murder, where he was serving 25 years with the possibility of parole after 25 years. So 2018 was his 25-year mark. But you don't get out of prison. Like, that's the only thing that's, like, also kind of weird to me with, like, Canada's system is, like, you don't get out of prison after that 25 years. Even though you served your 25 years, like, the court needs to accept your parole hearing.
And that's why it's a 25 to life scenario.
Yeah, like, it's called 25, like, that's a life sentence in Canada. But, like, so 2018, his 25 years was up, and he has since applied for parole twice, being denied both times. They say, like, he'll never get out. I know the last time he applied for parole, his own lawyers were saying, like, we're kind of scared, to be honest. Like, it seemed like the judge was going to let him out.
And it's crazy on that, too, because Karla and Paul both did psychological testing.
Like psychopath tests.
And Karla scored a 5 out of 40, and Paul scored 35 out of 40.
So he is a psychopath.
Together, they are the complete psychopath.
Yep. Even though, to me, it's also so crazy because, like, the fact that she only scored, like, she scored so low. So it's like, but she did the exact same things that he did. So,
especially because it was on video too.
And, like, I guess it's all in the mind and stuff, but, like, if you were able to do the exact same things that he did, how are you less of a psychopath than him? Like, you were equally a psychopath. Like, you did all the same shit.
Maybe manipulation played a part in it. Maybe he led it and she kind of followed because she wanted to make him happy.
I don't know. But, obviously, the court decided after all the trials were finished and they went away to spend their life in prison. Well, Paul spent his life in prison. Karla's living her greatest fucking life in Quebec.
With 3 kids.
They obviously decided to burn every single one of those tapes. So, unless you were in the courtrooms, like, during the trials and everything like that, you will never see those tapes. They are completely gone. Not that I would, like, want to see them, but, like, I want someone else to kind of watch them and tell me, like, who was more fucked up in those videos? Like, was it Karla? Like, did Karla truly do, like, everything that, like, Paul said she did? Like, when Paul got his video camera, Paul videotaped everything. So, like, he had to have videotaped them killing them. Like, he had to have. So, like, did she really smash, like, was it Leslie or Christian? I think it was Leslie. Like, did she really smash, like, Leslie's head with a rubber mallet? Or did Paul really just strangle her? Like, not that it's, like...
And even that, too, is, like maybe that wasn't
bad,
recorded, though. You know what I mean?
Maybe, but, like... And that could have been why they both told a different story, and it was like, okay, whatever. Like,
and that's probably why it wasn't, like, researchable information.
The only thing that, too, it's like, so if it wasn't recorded, and then obviously they took Karla's word for it, and then realized afterwards, once more videotapes came out and everything like that, that, like, she was lying about everything. Like, did she lie about that? Like, do the lawyers and prosecutors and everything, like, think, like, she lied about those, like, how these girls were murdered, too? Like, was Paul telling the truth during his trial? Or were they both just, like, psychological liars?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we don't really know.
It's just insane, too, that Karla, like, can get away with it from weaseling and have no repercussion once evidence is actually grounded up.
Well, that's...
how it works.
Yep. She signed her plea deal. She agreed to the sentence that they gave her. And honestly, smart. Like, it was smart of her. Because if she said, like, you know what? No. Like, I'm completely innocent. I don't even want a manslaughter charge. Like, she would have been fucked. Like, She literally would be in prison to this day, which, as she should. She very much should be in prison to this day.
She was, for all the bad she did, she was very fortunate and very lucky with the outcome that she ended up getting.
Definitely. And she gets to go live her greatest fucking life now in Quebec with her children, which, children? Like, you have children? And I did see a few years ago, she was, because obviously she changed her name to Leanne Teal, a lot of people in the area, like, you wouldn't know her as Leanne Teal. Like, you know her as Karla Homolka. Mm-hmm. So, changing her name to Leanne Teal, she was volunteering at her kid's school, and, which is so fucked up. I don't even think she's actually allowed to be, like, near a school, because you killed and raped 3 minors.
Well, no, because she wasn't put on the,
Yeah, she wasn't put on a sex offenders list, but I don't know if during a trial they said, like, you still had something to do with minors, like, murdering minors, so, like, you can't be around these kids, you know?
Yeah, maybe it was brought up and we just...
But, the parents, like, some of the parents, I guess, at the school, like, saw Karla volunteering, and one of them, I guess, recognized her and was like, you're Karla Homolka. Like, you are a serial rapist and killer. Well,
and imagine being Karla at that very moment.
And, like, she was walking out of the school, and they were, like, videotaping her and was, like, screaming at her, and she was like, I'm calling my lawyer, like...
And how long was she there before people started to notice her?
What do you mean?
How long was she living there?
In Montreal?
Yeah.
She's been living there since she got out in 2005. Everybody knows that Karla Homolka lives in Montreal.
So 2005, and then when did she get called out, like, oh, you're Karla?
Well, she got called out at the kid's school a few years ago. Not like, oh my god, you're Karla Homolka.
No, I'm saying, like, imagine going by Leanne for, like, a decade. And then you're so accustomed to your life. And then all of a sudden you just hear that name.
But, like...
That name like Voldemort. Where it's just, should not be said.
Yeah, but, like, you deserve every fucking bit of it.
100%.
Like, she's literally a fucking monster. And, like...
This is the Butting Head podcast, but we're in agreement for this episode.
Only this one.
This is the only one.
The other ones will be arguments. But, like, if I was the parent that was like, holy shit, like, you're Karla Homolka, I would have fucking lost my mind too. Can you imagine how those parents felt? Knowing that she was in the school with their kids after, like, she killed and raped kids? Like,
I mean, even at that point, all you can really do is just talk to the principal, talk to the authorities, and just either get your kid moved to a different school, or just try to, like, band together a bunch of parents and other people to make sure that she is removed from stepping anywhere near the premises.
Yeah, she since then is not allowed anywhere near her children's school, obviously. She's probably allowed to, like, pick them up, but she's got to probably park down the street. Kids
or
probably
have
got
her
to walk
husband
over.
with the different last name pick them up.
Yeah, or her husband. Another thing that's also so crazy to me is...
Do the kids have his last name? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I don't even know what her kids' names are.
Wow.
I don't even know how old they are.
She's...
Another thing that's, like, crazy to me is, like... I mean, obviously, it's probably, like, grade school and whatever, but, like, I don't know how old her kids are. But, like, if I was one of the kids in one of her kids' classes, and, like, my mom, say, was the parent that was like, holy shit, you're fucking Karla Homolka, and my mom came home and told me, like, who she was, instantly I would go to school the next day and be like, your mom killed kids? Like, do these kids, like, do her kids know who she, like, the monster that she is? Or, like...
Oh, definitely not.
But it's just, like, being in a public school, like, how could you not know? It depends how old
her kids are, too, though, you know? Like, if her kids are, like, 8, or, like, you know, like, under 10 even, like, they're not really gonna understand.
No, I know they wouldn't understand, I mean? But, like, even, like, imagine, like, a parent-teacher conference. Like, you're the teacher, and into your classroom walks Karla Homolka. I'd be like,
And then there is a kid in the class that her child is in, and they are enthused by serial killers, and a picture of the mom pops up on like a presentation.
well, that's the thing. Like,
Imagine that,
all the
too.
teachers in the school, like, all the parents know who she is. Like,
Especially now,
the
too, that she got called
majority of
out,
people
so.
in Canada know who they are. And yes, this happened in the 90s and stuff, but like, this documentary on them just came out like 2 weeks ago. Like, they are still actively making things about these people. Like, they are both still, like, they're not an infamous killer like Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, like John Wayne Gacy, Charles Manson, who's dead. Like, these people are very much alive. One of them is out, and one of them could get out of prison. Like, these people are very much around and alive and could very easily commit these crimes again. Like, these people around the area know who these people are. And, like, I don't think she was allowed to go back to St. Catharines or Scarborough or Toronto or anywhere like that. So I think that's probably why she moved to Montreal, like, get the fuck away. But, like, thank God she didn't come here. Because, like, we're only 3.5 hours. Like, thank God she didn't come here. Because, no thank you.
Mm-hmm. And Paul, he's 57 years old right now, born 64, so he's not that old. Especially if he were to get out in
He's
the next
younger than my
5
dad.
or 10 years, you know?
He's younger than my dad. So,
It's just a scary thought.
Karla's only 4 years older than my mom. So, like, they can
I honestly
very much
don't think
commit these
either that
crimes
he
again.
would be able to get out just with everything, but you never know.
I don't think they should ever let him out again, but it's also, like, in the, like, situation where it's, like, I don't think Karla should have ever been allowed out, but, like, if Karla's allowed out, then why are you not letting him out? Like,
That's controversial.
no, but I'm not saying, like, let him out, because
It's just like
I think he deserves to be in prison.
The fairness
Yes,
aspect
like,
that
that's what I'm
she
saying, is, like,
should not be out, and if she is out, then he should also be out.
exactly. Like,
Yeah,
if
no, I get
one's out, then why is the other one not? And if one's in prison, why is the other one not in prison?
Like I said, she just got super fortunate.
She did.
That
She got
the
really
plea
lucky.
deal, and she pleaded her very best case.
She lied. She straight up lied and got a plea deal from telling absolute bullshit. And the cops and the judge fucking fell for it. Look at the dog.
But that will conclude our first episode. Paul Bernardo, Karla Homolka. Did I say that right?
Karla Homolka?
Yeah. And
Yep. The Ken and Barbie killers. That's them.
The
That's
true
their
story?
story.
the true story is that?
Yeah, it's a true story. I
No,
didn't just
no, I'm
make it
saying
all up.
the
The documentary?
the docu-plug.
The Ken and Barbie killers, the lost tapes.
The lost tapes.
Good luck finding it. I hunted all day for it. So, watch it. It's active right now. I think there's like 4 episodes or something. So, and it explains the trial and everything like that. So,
Yeah. Like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one.
bye guys.